For the moment, though, we're going to be chatting about property, about getting on the property ladder. If perhaps you've been thinking about it for a while, or perhaps you've just done it, you'll know it's not the most simplest of things to do. It's quite difficult, especially in our current climate that we're in at the moment. But there is help out there. And today I'm pleased to announce into the studio Mo, who's back in. Mo, you might know Mo and Angelos. They've came in. Oh, I was just saying to Fleur, she was on about, I think, 6 months ago. When were you last in?
A year ago. Yeah.
With your book, wasn't it?
Yeah, Your Success, yeah.
Your Success.
Yeah.
Gosh, was it a year ago?
I know, it goes quick, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Yeah. And you don't let the grass grow under your feet, do you? Let's put it this way. Because you're just constantly busy. You're constantly dealing. So you obviously got your book, you got your podcasts. Yep. And you do so many other things which are related to that along the way, which I presume is your day job.
Yeah, so the day job, I've got 2 property companies, so that keeps me busy. So we do conversions of sort of old heritage and listed buildings into flats for people to buy, or amazing sort of luxury apartments, and then also create shared housing in Plymouth as well for people. So we manage that. We've got a lettings business as well. So yeah, it's very, very busy.
Okay, because it's
good fun.
It's an interesting world to be a part of, especially currently in this current climate that we're in, because I suppose the property market, I don't know, I mean, still in my area I see boards going up for sale and then sold, so it's still moving. People are still doing things. We're not all just sitting waiting to see what's going to happen with the world, but getting onto that property ladder seems to be a bit of a vicious circle, doesn't it, for people?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's always once you've been through that process once, I think you get a lot more confidence, but the first time you do it, it's all very new. You've got to speak to solicitors, you've got to speak to mortgage brokers, you're worried about whether your affordability and whether you can afford something, and sending your pay slips in and things like that. So it is and you don't get taught it at school, right? So you have to learn it from your parents, but your parents might not have bought anything recently, or certainly they wouldn't have probably bought their first property recently, and a lot of things have changed, and there's loads of incentives and different schemes out there, one of which we'll talk about with Help to Buy, they're absolutely fantastic, and it really, really helps people get on that ladder. And then, like I say, once you're on, it's not new anymore. You've been through the process once. It's a lot easier. So yeah.
Is the in your opinion, obviously, is the best way forward to buy something smaller, to start perhaps with a little flat, and then to make a little bit of money on that. Hopefully, fingers crossed, financially it goes the right way, and then build up that way. Or is it better to go big first, do you think, and stretch yourself? What's the best way of doing it?
You don't want to stretch yourself. I think you've got to work out what's important to you in terms of location, in terms of size, in terms of whether you want garden space or a balcony or whatever. I don't think you should stretch yourself. I think you need to get on with something that is affordable. There's a load of other costs associated with buying property, so you've got to buy all your furniture and things like that. So you don't want to be spending all of your money just on the property. You need to have some spare, and also you've got to protect yourself against anything that might happen in terms of your job and things like that. So you definitely don't want to overstretch yourself. So, but the great thing about Help to Buy is that it can make something that you would think would stretch yourself to buy. So you could get like a 2-bed house, 3-bed house, 4-bed house potentially, for a lot less than you think in terms of a deposit, and also per month as well on the repayments. So it's a fantastic government scheme.
How does it work if you've come out of uni, or you've got some sort of debt that has come alongside with that?
Yeah.
Is it possible for people to still be able to look at something like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So mortgage companies don't tend to look at your student debt so much as in the affordability calculations, because that's all calculated within your pay slips in terms of what you actually take home. So you send your pay slips in to your broker or directly to the mortgage lender, and they'll work your affordability out based on that. Now, you do have to obviously declare things like credit cards and things that aren't student debt. And the affordability's then based on that, and you've got to be truthful about that stuff, because they can check your credit file and they'll check it all matches up. So student debt, not so much, but if you've got other credit cards and things like that, you've got to make sure that there's still enough after servicing all of those and repaying them to actually afford your mortgage payments. That's what they're interested in.
And what about the deposit, the dreaded deposit?
I know.
Gone. Do you know what? Because I was, when we started saying that we were going to be doing this today, I suddenly started thinking, gosh, because I was an estate agent before I did this.
Right.
I know, this is going back, over 20 years ago now. And how it's changed.
Yeah.
I used to sell houses for about sort of £55,000-60,000, really nice houses. And, you'd need a deposit, possibly £2,000-3,000, which was achievable.
Yeah.
But now, when we're talking deposits, you're talking £10,000, £20,000, £30,000 for a deposit.
So generally the minimum for a normal deposit, if you don't use Help to Buy, the minimum is usually 10%, so you have to find 10% of the money. So if you're buying something for 200, 300,000, that could be 20, 30,000. So it is a lot of money. But with Help to Buy, you can buy with just 5% deposit, so you can get something, you know, a lot bigger and a lot nicer potentially with the same amount of money. And then the government will then, you put in 5%, the government will then put in 20%, which means between you've got a quarter of the money you need, which means you don't need to borrow as much from the mortgage company, and as a result you then get a better interest rate from the mortgage company as well, so your repayments are less each month, and that's interest free for 5 years. So it's a really, really, really great scheme.
How does that fit, though, in the current climate of everything that's going on with the B word? Because is this, you know, a worry to get involved now because it could change? I mean, is this still going to, you know, how does it look going forward?
So we have found, so we've got a development in Crediton called the Orchard House, which is where we've converted a former care home that was closed into 22 high-end apartments. And we're getting some of the, you know, some of the prices there are some of the highest prices that have been achieved for those kind of properties, because they're such good standard and there isn't that much stock. So in the Crediton market, there isn't a lot of really nice flats and apartments and, you know, things like that. So in terms of house prices, they've sort of held their value down there, and I think there's a lot of pressure in terms of sort of prime London residential central. So I spoke to a couple of estate agents who were saying, you know, anything over 500,000 in London is either flat or has dropped sort of 20, 25, 30% in some cases. But more regionally, you're seeing with initiatives like Help to Buy, you're seeing that house prices are remaining steady, and in some places growing, increasing. So I think it's, if you can afford it, I think it's a great idea to try and get on that property ladder. I think the way people are going is they're going one of two ways. You either go, I do want to buy, and I think that's a good investment, and I'm gonna set some sort of roots, or you just say, I'm just going to rent forever, and actually you can get some really nice rental properties. And then you're not tied to one location. So it's again sort of like we talked about when we talked about the book. It's about reverse engineering what you want. So what do you actually want? Do you want freedom to be able to travel? Probably don't buy a property in a certain place for you to live in, and you can just rent. But if you like where you live and you've got good friends, family locally, and a good job, get on that ladder. Use initiatives like the government Help to Buy to be able to afford something bigger or make something that you couldn't afford more affordable.
Is this just for people that are going into the market for the first time?
It's not. No, and a lot of people think it is. Yeah. So even if you've got a house and you're changing up into a slightly bigger one, you can still use it. It's for properties up to £600,000. So you can get some quite expensive property with it, subject to your affordability and you've been able to afford it in terms of the repayments. But yeah, if you're a first-time buyer, second mover, if you're on your third or fourth house, it's available to everyone.
Okay. Well, any questions that you might have, perhaps you've going through this yourself, perhaps you know somebody in your family that is, and you'd like to speak to Mo. Mo will do his best to answer those for you this morning. If you'd like to call in, you can. It's 0808 100 1034. But more on that Help to Buy scheme and the property world coming up next. Talking about property ladder, getting on it. If perhaps you're currently already in a property thinking of going up, maybe downsizing, just changing, a bit of advice out there for you. And also, I think just reminding us what there is for us that perhaps I certainly didn't know about, or if I did, I've forgotten about. Mo's in today telling us more about it. Mo, we were talking there while Madonna was playing about the government initiatives for getting onto the property market, and because I was just saying that's the sort of big real hurdle for people, isn't it? Is getting the money behind them. And you're just saying about these schemes that are actually that have been available for many years. Yeah,
so the Help to Buy equity loan, which we were just talking about, which is where you can put in a 5% deposit, the government will put in 20%, so you've got 25% altogether, and then you just need to get a mortgage for 75%, which will be much more affordable than getting a larger mortgage. That's been around since 2013.
Right. Gosh.
And I don't know, it'd be interesting to do a poll, but how many people actually knew about that? And it is advertised, but it's really a lot of it's down to the developers and the people that are selling the houses to sort of promote it. So they register for the scheme and then they can promote it as part of that. But it's not. I don't see it much advertised much more widely than that.
Do you have to earn a certain amount of money, or do you, to fall into a particular category to be able to be eligible
not for the Help to Buy equity loan. It's all just based on, to get the mortgage for the 75%, you have to prove your affordability. So that will be then based on how much you earn and how much the property price is and things like that. So
okay, and also alongside that, because another part of this is again, it's very tricky if you're trying to live life, if you're renting perhaps already, trying to pay bills, everything else. Trying to actually raise some money for a deposit, trying to save. Don't you love this word, saving?
I know,
It's great if you can do it, but again, there's ongoing help with this.
There's another thing which I actually didn't know about till more recently, and I'm in the property sort of business, so it's interesting to see how many people actually knew about this. But there's something called a Help to Buy ISA, and this is for every £200 you save in your ISA, you'll get a government bonus of £50, up to a maximum of £3,000. And that £3,000 is not per property you're buying or per couple. It's actually per person. So if you're saving for a deposit with your partner, you can actually get £3,000 each as a bonus. So from the government, so you can have £6,000 to put towards your property. And the really good thing about this is you can actually combine the Help to Buy ISA with the Help to Buy equity loan, which we've just talked about. So you can get £6,000 bonus plus all the money you saved in your ISA, and then you can actually put that towards your into your Help to Buy equity loan as well, and use them in conjunction. So it's very, very powerful sort of stuff.
Again, is there anything that you need to be eligible to be able to do the ISA?
So the Help to Buy ISA, you have to be 16 or over, have a valid NI number, be a UK resident. So this one is first time buyers. So that's the Help to Buy ISA is first time buyers. You can't have any other ISAs. You can't have any other property in the UK or actually anywhere in the world. And the property has to be up to 250,000 or up to 450,000 if you're buying in London. And it can't be like a buy-to-let property. So there are a few more restrictions on the Help to Buy ISA than the Help to Buy equity loan, but still, that's going to cover a lot of people up to £250,000 in this part of the world. You can get sort of nice 2-3 bed places for that kind of money. So
you said yourself you've been in the property market for a few years now, and you are rightly involved in Devon. How is it, the whole market here in Devon at the moment? You mentioned London a couple of times, but how are we comparing? How are we sort of keeping up here in Devon?
Devon's doing really well. I think the appeal of Devon is becoming more and more. Now you've got sort of faster Wi-Fi, you can work remotely, transport links are quicker, you can fly, you can fly to Exeter, you can fly to Newquay. People don't feel like they have to necessarily live in the city to get a good job and to earn good money. And I think people are realising that you can live by the sea or you can live by Dartmoor and still have a really good job and a good life. And I think the whole work-life balance thing is become more prominent these days. Devon's really, really desirable. And we're seeing that both in terms of the houses that we're selling in the Orchard House in Crediton, but also where we do professional shared houses in Plymouth. They're all really, really popular. So Devon, Plymouth, Crediton near Exeter, we're very, very popular. Yeah.
And again, I'm kind of throwing something at you actually, which I haven't sort of prepped with you. So
Okay.
if you don't know how to answer
if I go
this,
silent,
that's absolutely fine. But the big problem, one of the main problems that you physically see is houses which are derelict, which are empty, left on the side of the road. Or again, as you say, certainly I live in Torquay, so you see the sort of old hotels that are just there, completely empty, rack and ruin. And they could be made into properties for people that homeless people that are struggling. So how is that? Do you know anything about that as regards
so
going
it's interesting
forward?
you say actually, because so two of the projects that we're doing, part of our ethos as KHP Group, which is our development company, is to sort of bring heritage and listed and those kind of buildings or unloved buildings back into use. So the Orchard House in Crediton was formerly a care home, and it was vacant because it had gone into administration, and then we bought it back into these amazing apartments that are much needed in the Crediton market. And another one, we're doing an open day actually today at a place called Wyndham Hall, which is Wyndham Street East, or Wyndham. I think there's a big, no one knows how to say it. So I think if you're from Devon, it's different. But so that one's a really interesting one. That had been empty for 12 years. It was a former non-conformist chapel. It had then been used as a gym and I think like a taekwondo centre. So it had been vacant for 12 years. It was a bit of a squat squat risk, there was sort of antisocial behaviour, there was a lot of fly tipping there. So it was really bringing that area down. And we've actually accessed some funding from Plymouth City Council to bring that building back into use as much needed sort of shared accommodation. So we've got it was £150,000, 135,000 was an interest-free loan, and 15,000 was a grant. So there are initiatives, again, like there are initiatives from the government to bring to promote home ownership. There's also initiatives for developers to bring those buildings back into use, because the government have realised that to hit the housing targets, which we've missed for years and years and years, they need to look at, they can't just look at, you know, your big house builders and the empty, you know, big fields and plots of land. They need to look at, well, what have we got that is empty, that's in prime locations.
See that from driving around, can't you? That there are properties already empty.
Yeah, absolutely. So we love doing that and bringing those kind of buildings back into use. And they make them incredible places, especially when you're looking at heritage and listed buildings. People love living in and stuff like that. You get big, you know, massive windows, generally nice ceiling heights.
And there's nothing worse than seeing old buildings that have just been left.
It's a real shame.
It is.
It's a real shame, yeah.
And it's just to bring life back into them and to see people living back in them, and you know, and to hopefully somehow try and combat what we're in this current situation with so many homeless people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And empty properties there ready to sort of go. Yeah. So, well, thank you for coming in, as
Pleasure.
Always lovely to see you. I know I call you Mo.
Yep.
That's kind of who I know you as. But just for people that are obviously listening today, if they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
So the best way is probably just to drop me an email. So Mo is my sort of nickname. My full name is Murat, so Murat, and the email is murat@khpgroup. So khpgroup.co.uk. So that's the best way. And if anyone wants to chat about Help to Buy, more information about that, or about the scheme in Crediton or in the centre of Plymouth, then always happy to have a chat.
And how's the book writing going? Are we on to a second book yet, or are you just
not at the moment? I'm just so
busy.
Yeah, I'm just so busy with property. But Anglos is currently writing another book, so that'll be out soon. But yeah, I've just got too much going on at the minute. But yeah.
Well, best of luck with it all,
Thank you very much.
as always. And as you say, if you didn't get those details, if you'd like to call us, we'll pass those on if that's okay from Mo. And if, of course, the book comes out, anything else that you're up to, do come in and keep us posted and let us know. But if you do want to get hold of Mo just before he leaves the building, it's 0808 100 1034.